parents being so over the top that they think they're helping, but what they're really doing is they're also creating dependency of themselves. I've been in wealth management for close to 25 years, and I could tell you that I've had parents come into my office when they send their kids away, and I felt lost when my oldest son went to college. I also my youngest son moved away at 14 to play for an academy for soccer, and so he both of them were out of the house earlier than they were supposed to be. I felt that same loss, but we didn't my wife and I still had our own independence, our own lives, our own functioning. Whereas some of the people that have come into my office over the course of 20 something years, they genuinely didn't know what to do. Their entire livelihood was based around their children. So their marriage wasn't fixed, their personal lives, they had no friends outside of their kids' friends. So it became a very difficult transitional moment. And I think that to your point, we have to allow them to grow up. And there's one other thing I'm curious about as I make this point. I'm noticing that millennials waited so long. So you talked about the age of maturity
Yeah.
kind of increasing a bit. What's
Yeah.
interesting to me though is I'm noticing that this next generation is way more interested in getting married and having children earlier than the generation before them. The millennials wanted to wait till they were 30 to 40 to
Yeah.
start,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so this is a very unique thing that I'm hearing from my boys, their friends.
Yeah.
Like they're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to wait till I'm 35 to start doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And that's another generational flip, right?
It
Because the
is.
millennials were like, we didn't have a career.
No, you're exactly right, Scott. In fact, you're sharing data. I don't know if you know this, or it's not just your observation. So Gen Z has learned from many of the mistakes of the millennials. We always do. Every new
Yeah.
generation goes, "Oh, I'm not going to do that." So there is a reaction, and I think it's a good reaction. There's more Gen Zers coming back to church, especially males who are longing for something for their soul, not just their wallet. And I love it because I think it's a sign of we're gonna try to right size what extremes we've gone to in the past. So I'm encouraged. But one more thing about parents. Based on what you just said, I feel like I see far too many parents living out their unlived life through their child. I didn't get to do that. I didn't get to play third base for the Boston Red Sox. By God, my son's going to play. And the son may go, Dad, I just want an ice cream cone when this little league game is over, And so we need to be careful that we're not parenting out of our own need for affirmation and ego and everything else, that we're really leading our children well, just like we try to lead our company well. So I'll stop there.
No, you're making a great point, and I think it's always a challenge for parents because you want to provide more for your kids than the generation than maybe you had growing up, and so there's certain things you want to do that are similar. There's other things that you want to do that aren't, and it's funny because my boys are both they both respect and appreciate discipline and tradition, and so going to church on a regular basis every weekend, for example, is something that when I grew up traditionally in a Catholic school, I went through that 4 years of college where it was like, I can do whatever I want, and then I would feel empty, and I would end up in mass the next Sunday, or, I would find my way back. They're not escaping it. They're more looking for that discipline and that tradition. I was riding with a friend of my son's a couple weeks ago, and she did not grow up in a religious background at all. Her parents didn't go to church,
Yeah.
nothing. And I'm sitting in the back seat of her car, and she goes, "Oh, that's my Bible. If you need to move it, let me know."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, you're." She goes, "Yeah, I really have just started exploring because I just didn't grow up with it, and I need something else in
How
my life."
about that? I love that. Well, one of the prompts for that, not the only prompt, but one of the prompts is Gen Z comes in as the most lonely generation on the planet. Now, all generations are registering a bit lonely on global happiness surveys. But I think if I was feeling lonely and a little empty and social media didn't do it for me, I'd probably be seeking to fill my soul as well. So that's so cool that that young lady said, I'm exploring this. This is good. Make it your exploration. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're lonely because we have the feeling that more people are watching, more people are paying attention, more people
Yes.
care
Yeah.
about us than
Yeah.
actually do. And
Yeah.
so,
That's true.
they judge it by the number of likes. I'll do a video and my sons will be like, "Oh, you only got X number of likes on that." And I'm like, "Buddy, I don't think you understand.
Yeah.
If we impact one person,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
been worth whatever we put out." And if
Yes.
you go with that mentality,
Yeah.
that's the way that, but their generation comes from it from, "Oh,
Mhm.
the 1.7 million followers that guy got
Yeah.
makes him an
Yeah.
expert." He's not
Yes.
an expert. He
Yes.
doesn't even know what he did up until
That's
that
right.
point.
Yeah. It's
So,
true. No,
but it's
you're
still
right.
amazing, and he can
Yeah.
grow from it, and if he's smart, he's like anybody else that found a good idea,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
builds off it. It's amazing, but at the same time, there is a loneliness that comes
Yeah.
with that when you're
Yeah.
social media friends, but you won't talk at the grocery store when you see each other
Yeah.
out.
That's right. What I would say to listeners who are identifying, Scott, with your comment, Gen Z in the, research that I did, by the way, I did quantitative research. I surveyed over 2,000 members, and then I did 21 focus groups with Gen Zers from California to Georgia. They are longing for a culture of belonging, meaning not fit in. They differentiated with me the difference between fitting in and belonging. Fitting in is they come with perhaps purple hair and piercings and tattoos, and fitting in is you want me to fit a round peg in a square hole. I need to lose my hair. I need to lose the piercings or whatever. And by the way, I'm not for or against it, but many companies would say we're not going to let you do that. They would say belonging is different. I get to come and fully be who I am, but I am who I am on behalf of the big picture, which is bigger than me. This enterprise, this mission, this cause, this organization. If a Gen Zer can do that, they're going to feel like they belong to this family at work, if you will. And I
Yeah.
think we're going to see work like we've never seen before. We're going to see passion in them. And if we fail to see passion, it may be we need to look in the mirror and say, how are we not leading them well?
Well, I think you brought up another really good point, and that is, you know, when my boys talk to me about the potential of tattoos or any of those types of things, I'm not
Yeah,
judging anybody, and I don't care what
yeah,
anyone else does, but I have no problem telling my sons and saying,
yeah,
I don't think there's anything I would get at 18 to 20 years old
yeah,
or
yeah.
25 years old or under that I'm going to love when I'm 45 because
That's
there's
right.
very
Or
few things I
85.
was doing. Yeah,
Yeah,
especially 85. And
that's
so,
right.
you know, I think there's a problem today with parents not
Yeah,
standing up for what they believe in,
yes,
trying
yeah,
so hard to match the generation below them
yep,
that they forget to
yeah,
remind themselves of what made them who they are. And that's
yeah,
something that we
yeah,
were at a dinner table one time, Tim, and my mom was talking to one of my nieces, and they were challenging something about how we grew up and faith
yeah,
and stuff. And
yeah,
they left, and I pulled my mom aside, and I said to my dad and mom, I said, guys, I don't want for 1 second you to forget what helped make this family. We're all sitting around a table together, all three of your children,
yep,
all the grandchildren. And part of the reason we're here is because you stood up for what you believe in.
yeah,
Don't start, as you become a new grandparent,
yeah,
don't start changing
yeah,
what you believe in around them when it's not what you believe in. They will
yeah,
love you more
right,
because you stand up for what you believe in than they will when you're saying what you think is patronizing to them. They don't they see I think you would data would probably show us that they have a very high level of seeing through the BS
no
and they
doubt.
prefer
Yep,
authenticity.
yep. I heard a college student say to me not long ago, Dr. Tim, the only thing worse than being uncool is being unreal. And that's exactly what he meant, what you just said. I'm not looking to you, Elmore, for cool cues when you're in your 60s or whatever, you know? So I often tell parents, they don't need another pal. They got lots of pals. They need a parent, not a pal. Play the card you have. And you're right, they'll actually respect you more when you're not just sidling up next to them and wearing the same clothes and listening to the same music and spiking your hair and everything else.
Yeah,
We
even if
need
you
to be,
disagree.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that this generation, you brought up a point earlier, they're so prepared. I know that I have to shut my brain off because I have one of those brains that wants to constantly think and
yeah,
review, and I'm reading articles, and, like,
yeah,
even when we're watching TV, I might have something up, and I'm reading an article as we prepare for this podcast. You know, I'm reading all about your background, and it never stops, and they are
yeah,
always doing the same thing, and when we
yeah.
were younger, we weren't doing that. We had lots
Right.
of downtime.
Yeah, yeah. It's true. You're right. Well, and here's what I would say as a sort of volley back to that. I love the fact that they consume so much information. However, neuroscientists tell us when there is no boredom at all, our brains suffer. We need some margin in our day, some downtime. It's in times of boredom that our brains develop creativity and empathy, both of which are brilliant qualities to bring to a career. So I don't know if you're a dad or a boss listening, or maybe you're a parent listening, but we need a little quiet time. We need a little downtime. Certainly, we want them to use their gifts and be active, but there's something to be said for that a good old fashioned, I'm bored right now, and let's see what might happen upstairs here if I let myself be bored and just wander a bit.
Well, I think our generation, maybe the boredom that we might have felt was lost in work. So when
Yeah,
you look at the generations before, we were working, and a lot of our generations of
yeah,
both boomers, Gen Xers, and less millennials, but boomers and Gen Xers, we have this mentality that there's great pride in. I
yeah,
started work at 14 years old, and
yeah,
when
me
I
too. Yeah,
and these are the things that we say though, and we hold on to. They
yeah.
actually do find, I think they find peace and are okay with having downtime where we struggle with it a lot of our generations because of the maybe the work ethic and the timelines of when we grew up. I don't know if that's something that's with everybody or if it's just kind of a unique perspective.
Well, there is a swing. This is what research says. There is a swing toward what you just said. They've been so overwhelmed with social media data coming at them, way too much, more than we need, more than they needed. In fact, if a teenager is on social media, you take that and add all the other messaging they're getting during the day, 10,000 messages a day. I think enough of them got overwhelmed and thought, I don't want that anymore. So they are seeking out a reaction. It's a pendulum swing again, and I think it's a good one. But yeah, we need to make sure they know smart technology makes a wonderful servant, a horrible master.
So YouTube has this cool feature where they pick the next video for you, and it's right here on this screen. So I hope you enjoy this next video.